everybody, good evening. Apologize for my froggy voice. I've been talking to a lot of you out in the lobby, but I'm not the presenter today. Matt and Tamer are going to come up here in a moment, but I wanted to introduce them. But before I do, if you didn't know, this is supposed to be a 90-minute session. We are not going to keep you for 90 minutes. I promise we'll stay up here and talk as long as you want to, but for those of you who are hungry like I am, we're going to do a presentation probably like 25, 30 minutes, have time for Q&A, and then seriously, if you want to come bother us, we'll talk all night if you want to. So if you're willing to skip dinner, we'll stay up here and chat with you about what we're doing, but we're going to go a little bit shorter. So I want to introduce our speakers, Tamer Assad and Matt Sanderson. I have the privilege of getting to work with them on some really cool things that they're probably going to share with you here in a moment. Matt Sanderson, he comes from the commercial real estate world. He's been doing that for about 10 years. Tamer comes from a risk management background and doing process automation and AI and all sorts of really cool stuff. So as these guys come on the stage, you're not just getting people that are fellow short-term rental investors. You're getting some folks that come with a deep set of knowledge and experience in all of these things that they're going to be talking about today. So trust me when I say they're next level experts. On a personal note, these are two of the greatest men that I've ever had the privilege of meeting. My short-term rental journey started because of these two men. They give away freely everything that they know. If you have questions that aren't related to technology, you can explore that with them. They'll probably have answers for it. That helped me in my journey. They're incredible men of God, family men, love their wives, great dads. They're just really, really good guys, and they're not going to say that kind of stuff because they're too humble to admit it. But you're getting a real treat. So let me bring you guys up. Matt Sanderson, Tamer Assad, thanks for being here, guys.
You can take that with you. Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Brendan.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you all. It's good to be here. And Brendan, thanks for the introduction. We had no idea he was saying all that. He's definitely oversold it, so I'll tell you right now, if your hopes are there, maybe
but he did say something about our wives. Are they out here yet?
So.
Are they even here yet? Okay.
Well, thank you all for coming. We're excited to be here and talk to you a little bit about technology, AI, and data and how that impacts our short-term rental investment. But what a first great day of the conference, right?
Yes, yes.
So huge shout out to Bill and Mike. I mean, we just feel so much gratitude for them being able to bring this community together. That's been such a help for us in our investing. This is my third year here, and I think Matt's second. And it's been so helpful, so we're so grateful for that and the opportunity to share with you guys.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you a little bit about our journey. And when my family and I made a decision to pursue our financial freedom, we made a commitment to do that and to be intentional about it. And that decision, was a first step, and then we had to execute on it. And we thought it was going to be easy, and we've got a straight path. But what we found out, it wasn't quite as straightforward as we had anticipated. So we made this commitment, and the reason we made this commitment wasn't just to say, hey, I just want to quit my job or any of that. But really what we wanted to do is we wanted to build margin in our lives. We wanted to build margin financially for the unexpected, et cetera. But more importantly, we really wanted to build margin in time. We wanted to have more time to spend with our family, with our kids, and spend it in some of the values and the things that mean a lot to us, that we want to pour back into and give to. And so we knew that wasn't going to happen accidentally. And we needed to set forth an agenda to do that. So as we evaluated, we really figured out it's real estate investing, and particularly short-term rentals was our path to financial freedom. So with that in mind, we got really excited, and we started looking. We evaluated different markets. And once we picked one, we started looking at properties to invest in. And when we did that, we saw a lot of these properties initially, and we're like, these are beautiful, and they look great, and we can see our family going there and spending some time there. And so we got pretty excited. We started pulling up the properties. I had put together a spreadsheet to analyze all my deals and do due diligence, which this community has been great about learning different ways to do that and different ways to enhance that. But as we pulled all that stuff in and ran my numbers, and I'd go out and pull, what do I think revenue is going to be on this property? What do I think my expenses will be? I'd run them through my spreadsheet model, and I'll spit out a number, and unfortunately, it wasn't really great, and sometimes even negative. So we'd go back. I'd look back on the map. I'd find another property. I'd pull it in. I'd look at it, and it still didn't meet the criteria we were looking for what sort of return we wanted that would make the commitment of taking our hard-earned money and putting it in an investment worth it. So we did this again and again and again. And every time, we didn't find a great opportunity. But then, one day we did. And we found a tremendous return, and we were super excited about it. So I pick up my phone, I call the agent we were working with, and I said, hey, we found a property at last. We're ready to do it. And right before that, my wife and I sit and look at the numbers, and I call her over, and I'm like, look at this return. Isn't this fantastic? And we take a step back, and we start dreaming a little bit, and we look at this property, and we can envision ourselves visiting it. We can envision all the things we're going to do in it to welcome guests and be more hospitable. And we start thinking, hey, we can add a fire pit here. We can change this decor. We can make it friendly for kids in this way and welcome people in. And we just started dreaming and got excited. We called our agent, and we were on our way to our financial freedom, and we said, hey, let's make an offer on this property. Our agent had been a little bit experienced, and so she's been through this, and she kind of chuckled a little bit and said, well, this property came on the market 2 days ago or 3 days ago. And I was like, yeah, I know, we're excited. Let's go ahead and lock it up. And she said, no, they've already gotten 8 offers. They've accepted one. They've got a backup offer, and they're not taking any more. So we were pretty frustrated. And we're like, okay, well, that's a one-off. Let's look again. We figured we're back to ground zero. We're back starting from scratch, analyzing deals, looking for another property. And sure enough, it took property after property after property. But then we found another one. And the same process, I'd love to tell you that was the only time. But it happened again and again and again. And by the end of it, we felt pretty defeated, if I'm being honest. And this goal of financial freedom, more time with our family, it felt almost unattainable. If we couldn't get past that first step, how are we ever going to get there? But eventually we did. And we found a property that we loved, and we bought it. And since then, we've bought a few more. The process, however, had never gotten easier. It always took us a long time. So much so that now when I tell my wife, okay, I think we're ready to scale, or when I used to tell her, I think we're ready to scale and get another one, it's almost with a little bit of sigh of like, oh, here we go again. You're going to be gone all nights working on your spreadsheets. You're going to be gone on the weekend crunching away those numbers, looking at property after property, and not spending time with us. Mm-hmm. And so I thought there's got to be something better. And I know Brendan mentioned background in risk management, but my background is also in finance and technology. And I was like, there's got to be a better way. To apply technology, to think through things in a different way than the way we've always done them. And so what we want to talk about today is we want to talk you through how technology can be applied to the process specifically of short-term rental investing, picking, shopping for, analyzing properties to invest in that are going to be profitable and meet your goals. And after that, we're going to show you a case study, the results that we've gotten from applying this method of leveraging technology to help us analyze these deals and find deals in a market where it's hard to find good deals. After that, we're going to talk about a little bit of what's next. So technology that we're using today, but now when you introduce AI, what does that do to the investing game? And how can you leverage that to improve it? And AI can be used in a myriad of ways. I think we've seen a lot of good examples on how to use it to improve your listing, to communicate with guests, and if you're marketing your direct booking sites, ways to do that. Those are all amazing ways to leverage AI. What we're going to hone in on today, though, is really how to find, analyze, and get those properties that are going to be profitable, even in markets where everything seems like it doesn't pencil out. But before we do any of that, we've really got to talk about what are the key problems we face in this analyzing, underwriting, shopping for process, and go through each of the steps of what those challenges are so we can see how technology resolves or helps us solve those. But before I do that, I've talked to you a little bit about the challenges we encountered when we were shopping, and I'd love to hear from you guys. So maybe just shout it out. What issues or challenges have you guys had as you've looked for profitable properties to invest in?
Bring it on. What are the problems you're facing?
Yeah. Regulations. Yep.
Regulations.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyone else resonate with that exact same story? Yeah. 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 Spreadsheets to prove it. One more time. Slow agent response.
Agents. Yeah. I was playing I am one.
Anything else?
Small markets with data that's a little bit all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's good to hear, and I'm glad to hear that we've got some of the same challenges, and I think every one of the ones I've heard, I've encountered myself, and I'm sure most of us in the room have. So with that, let me kick it off to Matt, who's going to walk us through some of the challenges and the problem, and then we're going to talk about how technology can resolve them.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, again, thank you all for being here. So we're going to go through the problem because we got lots of problems. And, this process is painful. I know we've all been through it. Pain in the butt trying to find good properties. And so we're going to really digest that to really dissect it, to understand it before we get into it, just like he said. But we're excited about where we're going to take you all through this. So we already talked about the problem. We're going to go into a key metric that we focus on. It's not, it's not the only key metric that all of us focus on, but it's one of the top key metrics, and that's cash on cash return. Okay, but before we get into this, I just got to get, fill the room. Who knows what cash on cash return looks like? Well, actually, let's go back. Pretend you didn't see that. Who knows how to calculate cash on cash? Raise of hands. Who knows what it is and how to calculate it? Raise of hands. One, okay. Okay, so is cash on cash a newer term? Maybe, okay. It's just more, the calculation of it is a little bit more difficult? Yes, okay. Well, that's good to know. So that helps give us an understanding as we go through this. So really, as you look at cash on cash return, it's a simple equation. It's basic math, right? And so it looks very simple, but yet as us investors, as we're looking for properties, it's actually extremely complicated and complex. And why? It's because it's built up of all these different components that make it up. So yes, it's simple, but it's complex. So as we break it down, the revenue is probably the problem child for most of us. And it's really difficult to get good revenue, trusted revenue that give us the confidence to then go invest. And it's made up of a ton of different data pieces out there. And so that's a huge problem that I'm facing. I know many of you guys are facing. And that's just one component of all of it. Then you've got your expenses. You've got what are you going to calculate for insurance or taxes or handyman? Or are you even accounting for reserves? Do you have a spreadsheet? Do you have a way to analyze all of these different expenses? Am I sure I'm covering everything? So that's your expense component of it. And then, which I forgot to even say, cleaning fees. Like, you've got to know the cleaning fees, all these different things that make that up. And then you have financing. And so with financing, you need to know your monthly expenses for that. And so you've got to get an amortization schedule, or you go to a Zillow or something out there to bring that in. And so again, easy equation, but it's made up of so many difficult parts. And thankfully, last but not least, you've got your total cash invested. And that's a little bit easier to calculate because it's based on the list price. So at least there's something there that's a little bit easier to calculate out of all those things. So what I'm going to show you guys now is an example or example outcomes of what I used to do. So kind of piggybacking on what Tamer was talking about. Let me see if my laser works. Here we go. So this is an example outcome of what I would used to do. I would go pick a market, pick your MLS of choice, Zillow, Realtor.com, whatever it is. And how are you gonna know if one of those properties is good? You randomly go in there and you pick one and you start to look through the pictures. And if you like it, it's like, all right, let's go to your revenue provider of choice, bring in the revenue, go through your calculator, and you run it and you run it and you run it, and bada bing, negative 16. Who wants to buy that? Anyone? Okay, then you do it again. And you do it again, and it's a negative 12%. Anyone want that one? And then again, hey, 7%. Anyone want a 7, maybe? So sometimes you're finding decent ones in there, but honestly, a lot of trash. It's hard. It's really hard. And so that's what the problem I was facing. And where's my wife? I think I saw her walk in. I said, hey, you look beautiful. But hey, how much time would I spend away from you and the kids doing this?
Support our STRs a lot, but there would be a lot of weekends.
A lot of weekends. Thankfully, we did find some hidden gems. And so it was just painful. It was a pain in the butt. I want to spend time with my wife, my kids, and it's still pain. It's painful. And so if I had to really summarize the problems we're facing as investors, who said siloed data earlier? Or I can't see, it's too bright. But anyway, so siloed data, it's all over the place. There's no place to really consolidate it all. It's everywhere. So that's a huge challenge. And then you have the time-consuming process, just like I talked about. It takes forever to do it. You're only able to look at one market and one property at a time. So you do one. If it's good, great, go buy it. If it's not, you go do another, and then another, and another. And so one property at a time, it's very limited in what we can do right now. And then the last piece of it, the last piece of it is a lack of knowledge. So sometimes we may not know how to fully understand how to analyze a deal. And that's not all of us, but it's some that we may not fully understand how to fully evaluate that. So let me give you one more story, and then I'll pass it over to Tamer. So wife and I, after we bought our first property in Fredericksburg, shout out Mark. We're going to talk after this event, by the way. We're going to go do some deals. We did a cash out refi of our Fredericksburg property, which was incredible. Fredericksburg, Texas, great area, I love it. We did a cash out refi, ended up trying to go do a purchase in Seaside. And so we were so excited. We were looking at Seaside. My wife loves Seaside. A very difficult market, by the way. But we finally found a hidden gem, and we're like, oh my gosh, we're going to go buy this sucker. But it took a while to do it. And so when we finally got brave enough to put the offer in, similar story to Tamer, 10 offers on it, and we're like, great, we are gonna have to go to the whiteboard again. So anyway, that's just another story of just, man, it's such a challenge, and it's so painful, and unfortunately, the really good properties, if you're not able to move fast, like, they're just gonna get taken up. But there's hope, and that's why Tamer, we are gonna bring him back to talk about technology and how technology can really solve that. And it's just really cool to see how technology it's changing the landscape of what we're doing, and we've got to embrace it. And there's just so much out there, but man, it's so cool to give us hope to know, hey, there's some better ways out there, and there are things that can actually help us. So, Tamer?
Awesome, thank you. Yeah. All right, so Matt walked us through all the problems and wanted to share, and it's a lot of the ones that you guys had mentioned, and I'm sure you resonated with that as I've heard from the stories. So we wanted to see what can technology do to change the way we look at deals, the way we analyze deals, and hopefully the way we're able to scale up. So when we looked at these properties, we look at them, as Matt mentioned, one at a time, and we analyze it. We break down the components, we look at what data we need to pull in and do that. But technology can automate all of that for us, and it can streamline it. So that's the map we were looking at before. But what if you can use technology to then say, analyze every property in the market immediately? And it can go, and it can do the calculations and the spreadsheet and the analysis for you. And what you see here is on that top part, we're able to, instead of looking at things just by the purchase price, the list price, we're able to look at them by the percentage return we're hoping to get. And it analyzes that cash-on-cash return across the market. And what's the primary color you see in that map? Red.
Red.
And that's part of where a lot of these challenges come from. Most of the properties out there, maybe not, most, don't really pencil out. But we go through a sea of them, and this map was interesting to me because this is a map I use in the properties I've got in the Smokies. And I looked at that big pocket of red, and that's where I spent a ton of time. And if I had this before, I could have skipped all that red and just gone to the green and the yellow, which are a higher rate of return. But you can really factor this in, and you can use technology to say, this is exactly what I want in an investment. Maybe just not a general number. I want a particular percentage. So let's say, for example, I'm looking for a 20% cash-on-cash return. But maybe even more than that. I want to be specific. I want it to be at least 3-4 bedrooms, and I want a revenue of at least $100,000. Well, you can tell technology that, and it can look at all the data, and it can analyze that for you. So it can go through, and that map that was full of items and a whole lot of red can get really simplified and just have a handful of ones to look at. Now I know where to spend my time and my energy, and now I can really pick the property I want. And particularly in a competitive market or a current market like we have today with high interest rates, where it's hard to find anything that pencils out, being able to find a handful that do really gives you competitive advantage, especially as soon as they come on the market. If you're able to use technology to quickly assess which ones meet my requirements and quickly pop up, you can be the first person to call your agent and say, this is a property I want, and I want to lock it in, and now I know. The other element technology can do is it can help us with the confidence factor. Man, I've gotten to talk to a ton of people today at the conference, and there's all levels of experience. So we've talked to some who've got 10, 12 properties, and I've talked to a few who maybe even have 1 or 2, and they said they're still not sure that they're analyzing deals correctly. And they don't know what to look at, and what that's doing is it's causing a lack of confidence in pulling the trigger when you do find something that you think does pencil out. And so what technology will allow us to do is also automate that process. Walk us through it step by step. What things do I need to consider? What things do I need to evaluate and be cognizant of? It can walk us through that. So we talked a little bit about how we've applied technology to this. But before I get to the data and the analytics piece that really enhances, want to talk about the results you can get when you use a system like this versus a traditional method that most of us have been using. And for that, I'll kick it off to Matt on a property he got with a tremendous return. And this wasn't back in the good old days of 2021, but this was just recently in this current interest rate environment. So Matt?
Perfect, man. Thank you. Anyone here from upstate New York? Yeah, okay, one. You got any more? Finger Lakes? We're in upstate. Buffalo? Niagara? Westchester? Okay, it's one of them. Okay, so you're the only one here, so we'll talk together on this. So my wife and I'll never forget, we were in bed, she had her phone up, she was looking at Zillow, so the traditional route. She's like, I found a property, let's go buy this thing. And I was like, okay, let's do it. So anyway, I trust you. And so anyway, we're like, actually, that looks really cool. It was like a 100-year-old property in the Finger Lakes of New York. We love the Finger Lakes. There's a lot of wine region around there, so y'all should go check out those areas. And anyway, so we started really falling in love with that area. We had visited there a few times. Canandaigua Lake is just beautiful. And so we're like, oh my gosh, yeah, let's go buy this thing. And so we did the traditional route. We found it, ran the numbers, and it looked like it was going to be, I don't know, somewhere between, 20 and 30% cash on cash, so not bad. But it was an area we loved, and we wanted to take our family there to vacation. And so we said, all right, let's do it. So we put it under contract. We negotiated, finally got it under contract. We're excited. We're going to close before the end of the year. I also love to buy properties so I don't have to pay taxes or reduce my taxes. And so cost segregation studies are amazing. So it was going to check all the boxes. Well, anyway, we flew up to New York. We're excited, took the kids. And, the hype was going, adrenaline. And then we got to the area, and we just were like, I don't know. So we got to the property. It looked a little bit worse than we thought. We went in the basement. Pipes were leaking everywhere. And we're like, oh my gosh, this just looks like a nightmare. And I'm not very handy, so you don't want me fixing things. And so we got there, and even though we loved the area, it didn't feel right. And there was just too many problems, even though it was showing the 20 to 30%. And we're like, it just didn't feel right. So we backed out. We were getting, pretty disheartened, with the situation. It was about October at that time, October, November. And we're like, man, we want to keep growing our portfolio. The goal is to do one a year. We hadn't bought one yet that year. We needed tax write-offs bad that year. And we just were like, we're just not going to make it. And so we got to talking, and we're like, hey, we're building technology. I mean, why not use the tech that we've built? And so anyway, so we started looking at the application that we built together. And again, we had just launched at that time in October. So it was like fresh. And so I'll never forget, we were sitting on the couch together. I think we had gone to the Houstonian spa to get away. And we were sitting on the couch in the robe, and we were looking at the properties, and we did the filters just like Tamer said, and literally just put in anything above 20% cash on cash, anything above 100,000, and literally like instantly, we found our property in College Station like in 2 minutes. And so we were like, oh my gosh, this property is incredible. Let's go look at this. My wife is an Aggie. Any Aggies in here? Woo-woo. Okay. So I'm not an Aggie, and I was like, I don't really want to buy in College Station, but I do know that Aggies love football, and so that will probably make money on Airbnbs. So I said, okay, for that reason, we can look in College Station. And so anyway, we found this property less than a mile from Kyle Field, where, I mean, SEC football is huge there, and we're like, you know what, this could be interesting. We've got a property in Fredericksburg, we've got a property on the beach, but what about a football town? Especially one like A&M, where, I mean, really, there's a lot of potential and the prices are actually pretty low. So A&M is a great market to consider, I would say. And so we analyzed the deal. It was showing a 90 to 100% cash on cash when we clicked the filter that Tamer was talking about. And so we started to really analyze it, and we're like, well, you know what, let's put in some more conservative estimates. I mean, 90%, like, that seems unreal. And so we backed it down, and we just said, you know what, let's just go in with some pretty dang conservative estimates. And sure enough, we got to the end, and it was a 56% cash on cash. And I looked at Amanda, we're sitting on the couch again, and we're like, should we do this? And we're like, I guess let's do it. So the next day, we literally called the agent, started talking to him, negotiated under contract that night, and then closed on the property in 45 days. And so again, we found that property. Here, let me do this real quick. This is an example of the property. We found that property less than 2 minutes, went under contract the next day, closed in 45 days. And then what's the best part about that is, because at the time, we wanted to hit our goals of growing our portfolio, at least one property a year, so we were able to get that extra property. It was cash flowing $50,000 a year in cash flow after all your expenses and financing. And the cherry on top is depreciation. And we were able to close December 29th, right before the end of the year, literally the last day. Crazy situation, but closed the last day. And now we're able to, I think we're getting like $150,000 or $100,000 of depreciation to go. So anyway, it was just a beautiful story of just like, man, technology is so powerful if we can apply it. And what's really cool is, instead of just evaluating that one property, I mean, we were able to evaluate that entire region at the same time. And where technology is going and where it's really, really cool is, imagine now taking that same scenario in College Station, but just applying it to the entire US or multiple markets in the US. And it's like, oh my gosh, now you can go shopping for hidden gems, essentially all over the place. And so that's the power of technology. We're gonna get into some more stuff even on the AI side here in a minute, but I'm gonna pass it over to Tamer.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. 56% return. I wish I would have found that. That would have been a nice one. So what's next? So the technology we just talked about is available today. You can use it now to streamline your analysis, find deals like 56%, especially when you're under a crunch time, and be able to do that. But data analytics really enhances that quite a bit. So we're really big on looking at data and analyzing data rather than just emotion or gut feel, or I like the look of that. Because that's a way I've gotten in trouble before liking a house and falling in love with the property before looking at the numbers. But we love where data drives us and where it can enhance the way we think about investments, and also how it can enhance how our current enhancements perform. And so with that, I wanted to share some data that we've pulled up. As we've put this together, we've got a lot of data. And so data analytics lets us go through and analyze a lot of the metrics around, and if I can get this to unlock, there it is.
Too dark.
So it is a little dark. Let me try to do that real quick. This is what happens when you do use technology instead of paper. So we looked at some of the data and particularly focused for this presentation on the smoky markets. That's where I've got a lot of my properties. I know that's a hotbed of STR investments, but it's been one that's been a little more challenging in the last couple of years. So whether you're looking for property to invest in or you have properties there that you want to enhance, you start to think about what else can I do? And how can I look at revenue projections in a way that makes it a little bit more apples to apples? So you start thinking about amenities. What amenities are there in those properties? And maybe just yell out, what do you guys think is the top amenity you can add to a cabin to enhance revenue? Cool. Hot tub?
Hot
Okay.
tub. What else?
Can you add a view? Unfortunately not.
Did someone say bear?
So I heard
Okay.
pool, sauna, I heard a whole bunch of hot tubs. So hot tubs was one of the ones that everybody talked about a couple years ago. If you don't have it, you have to add it. It increases revenue substantially. You need to do it. And sure enough, it makes sense. But I looked at the data to see what is it now. What data analytics helps us do is look at trends. How have things changed? What's going on currently, not some dated information that we used to use. And when I looked at the Smoky Mountains, what I found is when you look at most of the cabins there, it's something like 83% of the cabins over there have hot tubs. So what does that mean? It's no longer a hot tub investment is going to be what's going to really increase your revenue, but you're not even going to be able to compete if you don't have a hot tub. It's kind of a must for that market now just to be competitive, especially as things get more saturated. You not only have to be competitive, you've got to think about the next step. And in fact, when we looked at the data, what it was showing is if you do add a hot tub to one of these larger cabins, it was such an incremental change to your revenue projections. But then when we dug into the data a little bit more, we found a little bit of a discrepancy, and it's the smaller cabins. The smaller cabins in the Smokies had less than 40% of them had hot tubs. And so we started looking at, well, what's the impact of a hot tub to those? And it was considerably more. So a hot tub for small cabins in the Smokies now, so we're talking about a studio, a one-bedroom, it really increased occupancy by 17%. And it increased your daily or nightly rate for the cabin by 13%. Now that's a heck of an investment. If you're able to get 17% more days booked at a higher rate, that's pretty good. And once you see the data and it leads you there, it makes sense. A lot of the smaller cabins aren't having hot tubs because it's a smaller investment that people have usually taken. The bigger cabins that people are paying millions for, they're certainly going to add a hot tub. But at the same time, who frequents smaller cabins? Couples.
Lovebirds.
Easy to understand why couples would go for a place that has a hot tub versus one that doesn't. So they tend to go to those. They tend to pay a little bit more if one has them. So that becomes an investment that's worthwhile. So whether you're looking to purchase a property and you're assessing revenue projections, you've got to make sure you're looking at apples to apples. Are the comparables I'm looking at have hot tubs or don't? If I already have a cabin, is that something to add? So that one maybe isn't so surprising, but it is insightful. But one of the other ones that I thought was, and I'll say pool tables, same thing. Most of the larger cabins, if you've got a pool table or game table, not a big difference, but it's still impactful. If you don't have any and you add one, it's about a 10% increase. But with smaller cabins, it's closer to 24% increase. But then one thing I noticed as you look at the data, you've got to see where the data takes you, but you've certainly got to analyze and interpret the data. And one of the things that surprised me as I looked at the data was amenities that when people offered full-size shampoo, conditioner, and shower gel, it was a pretty big increase that I saw. And I've got it over here so I don't memorize all these statistics, but it was 13 to 18% increase. And I was like, there's no way. And so as you dug in the data more, you realize it's not really a causation. It's not because I added shampoo and conditioner, I'm going to get that more. So we started to correlate the data, and what we found is everybody that offered that also was superhost status. And then we looked at all the available amenities, and everybody that offered shampoo, conditioner, shower gel had a lot more of the other smaller amenities. And the conclusion that it leads me to is these are the people who are really concerned about the guest experience. They're paying attention to the details. They're not just going for the big ticket items, fire pit, hot tub, pool table, but they're concerned about the experience a guest gets in their property. Are they going to enjoy it? Is it going to be comfortable and convenient? And sure enough, I think that's why we see the people that offer that are seeing a 13 to 17% increase in both their occupancy. So then we started looking at larger cabins. What are we seeing there that's impactful? And for larger cabins, one of the top ones that I saw is adding a high chair, pack and play, and safety gates. And when you add those, you're getting, and each of them are different. The high chair, you're getting a 5 to 9% increase in your ADR. Pack and plays, you're seeing a 4 to 10% increase in occupancy. And Safety Gate is similar to that, maybe just a little bit less. And so when I look at that, you can start to see it, and it makes sense, right? How many of us have small kids? And when you travel, you need to have those things, and you really can't go without them. So you're either forced to try to find somewhere to rent them, to buy them, but a lot of people are going to choose a place that has that stuff for their kids. I've got 2 twin 21-month-olds. And so we certainly need pack and plays and high chairs. And so from personal experience, I know I pick places that have that. Otherwise, I have to lug around. And if you've ever had to lug around, especially with twins, 2 pack and plays and 2 high chairs, not a fun experience on vacation. So when you look at it, if you add those elements, they give you a 10% increase in overall revenue. And a pool table can give you a 10% increase. And so I think most people will generally defer to, I'm going to go ahead and add a pool table, an air hockey table. But when you look at the cost of a high chair, a pack and play, you're looking at $150, maybe $200. And a pool table, you're looking at $3,000 to $6,000 or more if you get a much nicer one. But both of them will result in the same increase in revenue. And so that's where data really, as we look at it, is really beneficial to analyze it and see where it leads you versus what's the thing that's going to look good. Oh, actually, let me go back one. Did I catch it in time? I did.
Yeah, you don't want to release that yet.
So the other part, the other part is AI. So data analytics really helps us make decisions based on the data that's there. But AI helps us think through it a little bit more. And AI's been all the buzz lately. But AI isn't new. AI has been here for quite a while. So why is it the buzz lately? ChatGPT came out. And really, it's a different flavor of AI that's been the buzz. It's generative AI. And just in real simple terms, we won't spend a lot of time on what it is, but generative AI is different than other AI in that it generates or creates something new. It analyzes a big set of data, and then it can predict what's coming next, and it can create it. Whereas older AI would just replicate something or say, I've seen this, so this must come next. It can generate or create text, video, words, but it can also analyze those things. So one of the ways that we're seeing AI being leveraged to make those investment decisions is by having it visually scan properties you're looking to purchase or comparable properties. It can scan those, and not only can it extract out what amenities are there, but it can extract a lot of the intangible elements of it. Does it have a view? Does it not have a view? What's its proximity? So if it's on the beach, is it beachfront? Is it not? Do you have a good view of the beach, or is it obstructed? It can look at the quality of the house. Is it a unique design? Is it a cool-looking A-frame, or does it look like the house in the suburbs? It can look at the interior and say, is this well-decorated? Is this an Instagrammable worthy interior, or does it look like my grandma's house? And it can analyze all those, and then it leans back onto the data that we talked about and figures out for each of those elements, can I tie it to a revenue projection? Can I do an uplift to it? And it can say, well, if you've got this good of a view versus this house that you're looking at that doesn't, revenue can increase by X. And it can scan those and analyze that, and that's something that we haven't been able to do before generative AI. And so to me, that's a real game changer in assessing those properties, but also in the properties you have of figuring out, what are my competitors doing that have more? And then are these things that can change or not? But it can also, more than properties, it can assess comparable listings. So it can look at the listings of other people in that market, and you can have AI scan a listing, and it can immediately tell you how good of a host that is and how good of a listing it is. It can scan the copy of the listing. It can also scan the photos that somebody used and let you know, are those professionally done photos? Are they taken on an iPhone? And it can then adjust that revenue number based on the quality of the host and the listing and not just a property. And that's important when you're looking at comparable revenue. Because if you're looking at a few properties that are not well managed and you're a good host and you manage well, you know that that's not that reliable of a number. Or if you're a brand new host and they're stellar, you know, well, maybe I won't hit that right away. And so those are some of the elements where AI can really help us change the way we look at things. And so I'll show you a quick video that visualizes how we're leveraging AI now, and that's coming shortly in doing what we just talked about, analyzing amenities, views, et cetera. That's what we're working on, and it's just around the corner. So with technology like that, the way we invest can be smarter, faster, more effective, and even in difficult markets, it can find us the best deals. So with that, I want to say thank you for your time, and we're going to open it up some Q&A. If anybody has any questions, we're happy to take them.
Does your projection, is that based on a conventional model? And my other question was, who's your competitors and how are you guys better? Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so the question was, are the projections based on conventional loan, and who are competitors, and how are we better? And I will say, we're not really, our intent is to talk about technology as a whole. We used what we've built as kind of the core for that. So if there's specific things to ours, come see us at this. We'll talk about it, but I'll answer that one real quick in a little bit. The financing is really built on any financing you choose. So with technology, it gives us a lot of flexibility to customize it. And so you can do that. And then if you've got specific questions about our app, we're super happy to answer them, and we'll say afterwards, or you can come see us at our booth tomorrow. But want to keep it a little more not pitching my product. So.
And one thing I'll say, I know I see some people leaving. I think we're only going to do just, 4 or 5 key questions, or I mean, it depends how much you guys want to ask us. But 4, 5, 6 questions. But then if anyone needs to leave, then you can leave, and then we'll be on stage over here for anyone to have one-on-one detailed questions as well. It's here. Nice. Oh, hey, Brendan, do you have the mic, by the way?
Right, it's right here.
Oh, you did? Okay, perfect. So we got the mic. Perfect.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
The pictures that you guys are analyzing there, is that pulled from a listing, like a for sale listing, everything? So that's generated off of that. Do you guys have any concerns that you may have a value add? You know, they didn't use a professional photographer. Those are typically the ones that you can get a little bit better deal on. And so it may not generate the revenue, multiplier that it may need to find in order to identify that property.
Yeah, good question, John. Really, what we're looking at when it scans those, it scans 2 things. It'll scan the MLS listing of a property you're looking to buy, but it also scans the comparable listings of those Airbnbs. And certainly, if somebody doesn't take as good a picture, the good thing about AI, it can decipher the quality of a picture, if it's a phone-taken picture or not, but it can also work beyond that. So it can ignore the quality of it and identify the things in the picture. And so it can identify, hey, this really has a better view, and this has that. The thing with all of technology is you take the benefit it does, but it still needs a human element. So when it spits out the results and why, you can certainly take a closer look. And if it says there's no view, but you're like, hey, I've been there, and I think there's a view. They just didn't capture it well in a photo. You know, certainly that's an element of it to take. But when you're looking to do things at scale, analyze every property in a market or over that, the manual process is time-consuming. And you can use AI now, property by property. You could plug it into ChatGPT today. But to do it at scale, it really saves you a lot of time. And what I always encourage everybody, due diligence doesn't go away just because we have technology. Every property I look at, even when I analyze it that way, I send it to a local realtor to look at. I look at it myself and make sure I agree with those elements. But it really helps take a ton of the legwork that isn't the thing I want to do or spend my time doing, and it gets me to the results that I want. Locking in a cabin, getting it ready for people, and making money. Does that help answer that?
Yeah, perfect.
So right now, that's not built in, but we've got a pretty robust roadmap of all the things we want to add to it. That's one of the things on there. And in the meantime, one of the workarounds where we can get to it is having the realtors. We've got realtors on, and again, I guess I'm talking about mine, so maybe I should step away from it a little bit. But you've got realtors in there that can contribute local knowledge, and they can say, here's pockets that have restrictions that you want to avoid. Because right now, it's running it on data, and so it's not looking at regulations, but that's certainly something. Technology is pretty nimble and agile and evolves quickly. So that's certainly something that can be added in the future.
Yeah.
It's not really about your program. It's kind of a question, I guess.
Yeah.
If we continue, as an industry, continue to raise the bar more and more on amenities, how is that going to affect launching costs and ROI? And where does it stop? Like, if we all, well,
That's an excellent question. And I don't think my answer is going to be real popular because I don't think it stops. I mean, it's a capitalistic, competitive environment, and people will continue to compete. They'll continue to enhance. And to be honest, I think the end result, we may say, hey, that's uncomfortable for us as hosts, that we've got to keep adding this stuff. The end result is that the guest, the consumer, is going to get a better product, and it's going to grow. And as that grows and develops, long term, you would imagine what people pay for some of that stuff is going to grow because you're not going to just add an amenity that doesn't make financial sense. So as it does make financial sense and you add those and people come in more and more because they enjoy it more and the quality of the properties are better and the amenities are better, I think it's just going to pick up everybody's game. I think rates in time will go up. But you've got to assess, where do I stop and where does it not make financial sense? But I think it will drive up rates.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, the rates will have to catch up to it in order for the ROI to still be there.
You're absolutely
Right.
correct. And it's interesting when you compare the data on a mature market like the Smokies and maybe the one that isn't as mature, like Shenandoah Valley, for example. And you look at what they're doing there on some of the stuff, and it doesn't take a whole lot to be competitive and outshine somebody. A hot tub there and a fire pit and a game room, you're going to be top of class. And so it's important to think about some of those distinctions, and that helps make some of the investment decisions as well. Not only what sort of revenue do I project and what sort of price point, but where can I just do some incremental amenities and really be top of class?
Where do you get your data?
We get our data, well, right now we use AirDNA, and we think it's no data source is perfect, but it's the most trusted publicly available one because a lot of lenders will also say, we'll lend off of that. And even if you use something else to say, well, show me an AirDNA number and lend off of that. But we're also working on our own data set where I pulled a lot of this data, and we've got data analytics and AI going through that and refining it. And so ideally, long-term, you'd use AirDNA and some other refined data and give the user a clearer picture of the range that you're looking at.
Yeah, the last piece of that is, I mean, we're also a brokerage, so we're able to get directly connected to MLSs. And there's, I don't know, 400 or 500, at least 400 or more MLSs in the entire US that all operate differently, and there's tons of data points all associated with those MLSs. So it's, there's a lot of data out there specific to those two.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is your AI going to be used to go ahead and scan all the listings out there and produce more data to go off of, or is it more of an individual basis, like once you find a listing, you can use it?
Once you find a listing you're looking at to buy, it'll scan it on the back end, and it'll produce the results. But it's something you can also do individually. Take one by one and put it into Google Bard or ChatGPT. But this will do it at scale, because anything you see, it'll automatically scan it instantaneously behind the scenes and give you the results there.
Yep.
And then the next step will then to look at it for the properties that you currently own.
Yep.
And where can you compare comparable listings and say, what do I need to be more competitive? And if it scans yours and somebody else and spits out 3 or 4 things, you can say, okay, is the investment in a hot tub or is an investment in this worth the extra revenue that it's projecting I get?
Yep.
And I think it's that question, yeah.
Yeah, most of our properties, so we try and target, 20 to 30%
Yeah.
cash on cash. Most of those have come through value add and being able to repurpose properties. My assumption is that this is more from a turnkey standpoint based on what's currently out in the market, the cash on cash returns, the assumed down payment, I guess, versus the AirDNA data versus, of what comparable short-term rentals could do in the area.
So I can take this one. So we wanted to talk pretty broadly about technology, but because we are also building an application to solve this problem, we kind of have to talk about both a little bit. So we're trying not to talk about our application as much. But one thing you can do with tech that we've developed is that same idea of like, hey, what if I want to do value add type opportunities? Because maybe the market I'm looking at is just, it's tough. Like I can't go buy turnkey properties, which I love turnkey properties. But say you want to do, value add. Well, this was your idea. He was like, hey, well, what if we were looking at a market and we had default filters and say it's a value add and we're assuming, 30 grand in CapEx on average or 40, whatever the number is. And then you just click the button and then apply your filter over every single property in that market. So that's what we've discovered technology can do even now. is that same assumption.
Yeah, and to dig into that a little bit more, but pre the AI piece, which is coming real soon, it's looking at revenue projections for comparable properties. So it's not necessarily able to decipher, hey, is this a value add or not? I love value adds. I don't always like the work that goes in them, but I love the value I get from being able to take something that's underpriced and really enhance it. And to Matt's point, the AI piece is really going to be able to help you do that and let you know where can you put a little bit of money to increase that revenue for a value add property.
So maybe one more question?
Okay, I see two more.
Or two more, okay.
As far as expense, calculated into that, how does it go, or how is it computed in there?
Excellent question.
Say like Gulf Shores, you got insurance, high taxes, or what kind? Maybe something better, like maybe gas than
Yeah.
Yeah.
high insurance compared to like Hawken Hills or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Texas.
Yeah, where maybe a Hawken Hills, you maybe have like 30% expenses, whereas you go down towards you're gonna have 50, 60%
Yeah.
How does that calculate?
So it's really two ways. So we crowdsource data and we pull the data where you can. So property taxes, for example, will get pulled in depending on where you're at. But it crowdsources the rest of the data and uses some rules of thumb to help you figure out what they are. So is it going to be exact? Are your utilities going to be spot on? No, it'll be close enough. But what it does is it lets you customize all of it. So as you get that property that you see and you see a percentage, hey, maybe this is 24%, you can go into it and it'll show you every expense bucket and what it calculated for it, and it'll explain the rule of thumb that was used.
Exactly how it's calculated.
So then you can edit it. And if you're in a market, so if I'm getting another one in the Smokies and I've already got a team of cleaners and I know what my cleaning cost is, I can go to my default settings and I can say change the cleaning cost to this, and it'll overlay it on every property in the market. But having the crowdsource rule of thumb approach we found is really good. If you include every bucket, a lot of those expenses are not way off other than insurance and property taxes, which now we do direct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And I think I saw a question in the back. Is it same question? Okay.
Same question. Okay.
Go ahead.
Any
Yep.
other AI tools you recommend?
There's a lot. So I'll use Google Bard and ChatGPT clearly on a lot of this. In fact, that's where I get some of these ideas of can we do at scale. So if you haven't played with them, I would just go and start playing with them. From just improving your listing, and we talked about guest communication, you can start to have them look at different metrics and ask it, hey, in this market, what do you think is valuable? Now take that with a grain of salt, because what it produces is on available data that may or may not be reliable. But if you have your own data set or have access to it, it can really help decipher that.
If I could add, one thing you can do is just a simple one. The Pro account for ChatGPT, you can upload files to its knowledge base. So you can't do that with the regular one. But let's say you want to improve your listing description. Go to Airbnb and pull some comps in your market that look really good. Take their descriptions, upload it into a file, and then ask it to hone in on your description. And you're training it to kind of think like you want it to think. So that's just a really simple one.
Yeah.
Yep.
The ChatGPT Pro is a great tool.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And you can even say, from the properties I just loaded up from Airbnb, give it the revenue so it knows which ones make more if you have that, or which ones are better rating, and say, look at what are the keywords those particular properties have that the others don't, and what's mine missing. And that's a good way to get to it as well.
Yep. All right. Well, I think that's it. We want to let y'all go. I know everyone's starving. Well, at least I am. But if anyone wants to hang around and chat with us for a little bit, we'll stay as long as we need to. But thank y'all for coming.
Thank you for your time.
And,
Appreciate
thank you for
it.
your time. So.